The Old Woman of Berkeley. The raven croaked as she sate at her meal, and the old woman knew what he said, and she grew pale at the raven's tale, and sickened and went to her bed. "Now fetch me my children, and fetch them with speed," the Old Woman of Berkeley said. "The monk, my son, and my daughter, the nun, bid them hasten, or I shall be dead." The monk, her son, and her daughter, the nun, their way to Berkeley went, and they have brought with pious thought the holy sacrament. The old woman shrieked as they entered her door. She cried with a voice of despair, "Now take away the sacrament, for its presence I cannot bear." Her lippet trembled with agony, the sweat ran down her brow. "I have tortures in store forevermore, but spare me, my children, now." Away they sent the sacrament, the fit it left her weak. She looks at her children with ghastly eyes, and faintly struggled to speak. "All kind of sin have I rioted in, and the judgment now must be. But I secured my children's souls. Oh, pray, my children, for me. I've anointed myself with infant's fat. The fiends have been my slaves. From sleeping babes I've sucked the breath, and breaking by charms the sleep of death, I have called the dead from their graves. And the devil will fetch me now in fire, my witchcrafts to atone, and I who have troubled the dead man's grave shall never have rest in my own. Bless, I entreat, my winding sheet, my children, I beg of you, and with holy water sprinkle my shroud, and sprinkle my coffin too. And let me be chained in my coffin of stone, and fasten it strong, I implore, with iron bars, and with 3 chains, chain it to the church floor. And bless the chains and sprinkle them, and let 50 priests stand round, who night and day the mass may say, where I lie on the ground. And see that 50 choristers beside the bier attend me, and day and night by the taper's light with holy hymns defend me. Let the church bells all, both great and small, be tolled by night and day, to drive from thence the fiends who come to bear my body away. And ever have the church door barred after the even song, and I beseech you, children dear, let the bars and bolts be strong. And let this be 3 days and nights, my wretched corpse to save, till the 4th morning keep me safe, and then I may rest in my grave. The old woman of Berkeley laid her down, and her eyes grew deadly dim. Short came her breath, and the struggle of death did loosen every limb. They blessed the old woman's winding sheet with rites and prayers due. With holy water they sprinkled her shroud, and they sprinkled her coffin too. And they chained her in her coffin of stone, and with iron barred it down, and in the church with 3 strong chains that chained it to the ground. And they blessed the chains and sprinkled them, and 50 priests stood round, by night and day the mass to say, where she lay on the ground. And 50 sacred choristers beside the bier attend her, who day and night by the taper's light should with holy hymns defend her. To see the priest and choristers, it was a goodly sight, each holding, as it were a staff, a taper burning bright. And the church bells all, both great and small, did toll so loud and long, and they have barred the church door hard after the even song. And the first night the taper's light burnt steadily and clear, but they without a hideous rout of angry fiends could hear. A hideous roar at the church door, like a long thunder peal. And the priests they prayed, and the choristers sung, louder in fearful zeal. Loud tolled the bell, the priests prayed well, the tapers they burnt bright. The monk her son, and her daughter the nun, they tolled their beads all night. The cocky crew, the fiends they flew, from the voice of the morning away. Then undisturbed the choristers sing, and the 50 priests they pray. As they had sung and prayed all night, they prayed and sung all day. The second night the taper's light burnt dismally and blue, And everyone saw his neighbor's face like a dead man's face to view. And yells and cries without arise that the stoutest heart might shock, and a deafening roar like a cataract pouring over a mountain rock. The monk and nun, they told their beads as fast as they could tell, and aye, as louder grew the noise, the faster went the bell. Louder and louder the choristers sung, as they trembled more and more, and the priests, as they prayed to heaven for aid, they smote their breast full sore. The cocky crew, the fiends, they flew from the voice of the morning away. Then undisturbed the choristers sing, and the 50 priests they pray, as they had sung and prayed all night, they prayed and sung all day. The third night came, and the tapers' flame a frightful stench did make, and they burnt as though they had been dipped in the burning brimstone lake. And the loud commotion, like the rushing of ocean, grew momently more and more, and strokes as of a battering ram did shake the strong church door. The bellmen, they for very fear could toll the bell no longer, and still as louder grew the strokes, their fear it grew the stronger. The monk and nun forgot their beads, they fell on the ground in dismay. There was not a single saint in heaven to whom they did not pray. And the chorister's song, which late was so strong, faltered with consternation, for the church did rock as an earthquake shock uplifted its foundation. And a sound was heard like the trumpet's blast that shall one day wake the dead. The strong church door could bear no more, and the bolts and the bars they fled. And the taper's light was extinguished quite, and the choristers faintly sung, and the priest dismayed panted and prayed, and on all the saints in heaven for aid they called with trembling tongue. And in he came with eyes of flame, the devil to fetch the dead, and all the church with his presence glowed like a fiery furnace red. He laid his hand on the iron chains, and like flax they mouldered asunder, and the coffin lid, which was barred so firm, he burst with his voice of thunder. And he bade the old woman of Berkeley rise, and some with her master away. Cold sweat started on that cold corpse at the voice she was forced to obey. She rose on her feet in her winding sheet, her dead flesh quivered with fear, and a groan like that which the old woman gave never did mortal hear. She followed her master to the church door. There stood a black horse there. His breath was red like furnace smoke, his eyes like a meteor's glare. The devil, he flung her up on the horse, and he leapt up before, and away like the lightning speed they went, and she was seen no more. They saw her no more, but her cries for 4 miles round they could hear, and children at rest at their mother's breast started and screamed with fear. End of poem.